I want you to meet Malone Lamb. See, in this picture, he's celebrating because him and his friends just got done stealing $200 million. But him and his friends had a problem because after they stole that $200 million, him and his friends went straight to the club, went straight to the dealership, went straight to Louis Vuitton. Them boys started blowing that cash, which, as you can imagine, got them some unwanted attention. But before we get into that, I know what you're wondering. How did they get all this money in the first place? Well, you see, one day or night, I don't know, I wasn't there, Malone checked his pockets. He said, I'm broke. So he decided to get a job. The job title was scammer. Malone then finds other people in a chat room that want to scam like him, and they form a scam group. Real quick, I want you to take a look at how old they are. Now you could probably understand why they went straight to the club as soon as they got a bunch of money. But again, we're before they got a bunch of money, okay? So they meet up in a chat room. Malone said, look, I'm trying to shine like the rappers in them. Take pictures. Smile for the camera like Uzi and them with the handbag. Who with me? His fellow scammers, Veer and Jandel, remember those names, said, yes, let's do it. Oh, and they did it. Them boys got good fast. And what they were doing was they were stealing cryptocurrency from rich people. And when I say stealing, I mean a couple $100,000 here, a couple million there. And here's where it starts to get wicked. As they're stealing money from these rich people, one day they find somebody who's super rich. They don't know how rich this person is just yet, but they know they're rich. So they decide to do their usual scam. They get this rich person's email information and they start, let's say, spamming this email so it looks like it's getting hacked, right? So this rich person is getting alerts like, oh man, somebody looks like they're trying to log into your account. The rich person freaks out a little bit. But as this rich person, let's call them Richie. As Richie, the rich person, Richie is freaking out, he gets a phone call. Ring, ring, ring. It's from one of the boys. It's from one of the scammers. They said, hey, this is Google. It looks like your email is getting hacked. So why don't you, Richie, give us your email and password so we can log on and figure out what's going on for you. Richie says, my email and password? What you need that for? They said, to calibrate the email. You guys are Google, so you guys know what you're talking about. Here's my email and password. Richie gives them his email password, but that's not enough. They also need Richie's two-factor authentication code, okay? But it's a little suspicious if you're asking for all this information. So Google, the scammers, they hang up. Richie gets another call. Ring, ring, ring. Richie said, hello? It's the scammers again. But this time they're saying, oh, we're a cybersecurity company. We work adjacent with Google here and there. It looks like your account was getting spammed and all. Richie said, that's what I was telling Google. They said, yeah, we know. So we need your two-factor authentication code, Richie. Richie said, my two-factor authentication code? What you need that for? They said, to fix your stuff? Richie said, you guys are a security company. That makes sense. Here's my two-factor authentication code. Richie gives them the two-factor authentication code, but it's not enough. Malone, Veer, and Jandel are getting closer and closer. They find out through his emails, oh, he has a bunch of crypto accounts. They said, perfect. But now they need the login and passwords for that. So they said, well, Richie kind of stupid. So let's just try calling them again. Ring, ring, ring. They said, Richie! Richie said, what's good, cybersecurity company? They said, we need you to download this app on your computer called AnyDesk. What AnyDesk lets you do is it lets you see what somebody's doing on their computer. Richie said, why y'all need me to do? They said, Richie, just do it. Richie said, all right, I'll do it. He downloads AnyDesk. They start watching Richie log into his crypto bank account. These scammers said, oh, Richie ain't real. They watching Richie type in his email password. And the boys, Malone, Veer, Jandel, and them see this. $240 million in crypto. Them boys said, God. Richie said, huh? They said, we so sad that you getting hacked. So we trying to save you. Richie said, okay, appreciate y'all. Y'all got all my information that I typed down and all that. They said, oh, we gonna hang up, Richie. Y'all have a nice day. Richie said, I'm good. They said, we good. Richie said, we good. They said, we good. Them boys hang up and they take everything Richie got. They log in with the information that they saw Richie log in with. They take all his money. Now, how do I know all of this information? Well, you see, Malone, Veer, Jandel decided to record themselves doing all this. After they take all of Richie's money, them boys was celebrating. Then they said, you know what? This is what we got to do, though. We got to think smart. We have to take all this money and bring it to a bunch of other little accounts so it's untraceable. That's what they do. Then they decide, you know what else we got to do? We got to lay low, because usually when a heist happens, the criminals can't just spend the money immediately. We got to give it a few weeks. But after we go to the club, of course, because we got to celebrate. So the boys decide to go to the club. They spend $50,000, they spend $20,000, $100,000 on bottles. They see famous girls in the club, they see Instagram girls at the club, they just hand them out Birkin bags. They say, here you go, Birkin bag for you, Birkin bag for you. And it's at this point they looked at each other and said, how could I lay low with all this jewelry on me? They buy cars, they buy houses. And it's at this point they attract the wrong kind of attention. Another group of crypto scammers looked at each other and they started hating. They said, damn, them boys Malone and them getting a whole lot of money. So this group gets together and they find out Veer is trying to buy his parents a crib. As Veer's parents are driving down the streets of Miami to look for houses, this group, boom, crashes into Veer's parents. See, this group's plan is to take Veer's parents hostage so Veer can pay ransom for them, right? As Veer's parents are disoriented because they just got into a crash, some other members of this group pull up in a van, take Veer's parents, throw them in the car, drive away. But the problem is they were doing this in broad daylight. So a cop sees them. Cop chases them down. This group swerves, they crash again. The cops surround them, they arrest these guys. Now, here's something I want you to understand. Anytime something sounds like it's coming out of a movie, the FBI will always try to figure out where the camera's at. If a group of people try to pull off a crazy abduction in broad daylight, the FBI are gonna be the first people to ask why. But even before this, if a group of random teenagers is buying private jets, houses, cars, making massive transactions, the FBI is gonna say, I've never heard of you before. I never seen your parents. You some kind of prince, some kind of king? No. Oh, you was some random dude a few weeks ago, all of a sudden? You blowing a bag like this? So the FBI been watching them, but even worse, they caught the attention of a man named Zach XBT, an underground crypto investigator who never shows his face, but loves solving crypto-based crimes. In fact, the moment Veer, Jandel, and Malone stole this $240 million, Zach XBT immediately got an alert. He saw so much money moving around. Zach said, well, a case worthy of my talents. Zach calls Richie, the person who lost all this money. Remember him, the stupid one. Zach said, hello, would you like me to get your money back? Richie said, you one of them scamming people? Zach said, do I sound like one of them scamming people? Richie said, kinda, but I already came this far. What you need me to do? Zach said, hire me so I can get your money back. Richie hires Zach. Zach decides to hunt down Malone, Veer, Jandel. In fact, Zach is the one who got the video recording of Malone, Veer, and Jandel recording themselves stealing the money. Their names was in the video. Them folk calling each other by name. They said, Veer, look at how much money we got. Malone Lamb, look how much money we got. Zach said, you can't make this up. Ding, ding, ding. Zach gets in touch with the FBI. He starts helping the FBI out, giving them the video, giving them all the information. The FBI said, appreciate you. And then, well, the FBI does their thing. The oldest FBI trick in the book. Catch one, make them squeal. Now, they didn't say exactly who they caught, but people believe it was Jandel first. The FBI brings Jandel in. They said, Jandel. Jandel said, okay, his name is Veer. The other dude's name is Malone Lamb. Yeah, my name is Jandel. We did it, officer. They said, damn, we didn't even ask you a question. When Veer saw all this snitching, he decided to turn himself in. He went to the FBI. He said, Malone Lamb. Jandel, he started telling too. The FBI said, damn, this is an open and shut case, ain't it? So they decided to let Veer go out on bail. But I'm not even going to change the picture because I want to show you how fast Veer went back to jail. Veer leaves on bail. He steals $200,000 scamming again. He gambles the $200,000 and loses it all in 40 minutes. The FBI call him up. They said, we saw what you did. Put your hands behind your back. Veer said, y'all not even here. We on the phone. They said, arrest yourself. We're going to come pick you up because you stupid. He said, all right. They lock Veer up. And as for Malone, they labeled him as the ringleader, which Malone denies. Malone is basically saying he was just following orders. He not like the ringleader and all that. If you're the ringleader, you get in the most time. So Malone decides he's going to trial, and his trial hasn't started yet, so we have to wait and see what happens. But since there's so much evidence against Malone, Veer, and Jandel, they most likely will be spending most of their adult lives behind bars.